Hello PCS aspirants, welcome to PCS Booster Course Lecture 2. So topic for today's discussion is from General Science section, and this topic which you are seeing on your screen has already been asked in PCS mains last time as well. So we'll be decoding the relevance of trans fats in our diet today. So trans fat is a topic which falls under the biology domain as well as under, you could say, science and tech part related to the life sciences. So in this topic, you have to be clear what exactly are the trans fats, what are the foods which are commonly associated with them, what are their controversies, and is there any global or national program which is catering to limiting their use. So without wasting any time, let's start PCS Booster Course once again on a positive note. So first and foremost, as you could see on your screen, whenever you go out on a family outing or on even in your snack times, these are some of the foods which you commonly tend to feed. It could be pizzas, it could be bakeries, popcorn, burger, fries. So anything to do with the fried food is commonly associated with trans food, even though they are, you could say, have good appetite for taste, but yet due to some harmful effects, they are not considered healthy food options anymore. And WHO has already instructed majority of developed nations to phase out completely trans fats in their diet, and developing nations like India are also following the suit. So first and foremost, from definition point of view, you should be clear what exactly trans fats represent. So trans fats are trans fatty acids. They are type of unsaturated fatty acids which are prepared by partial hydrogenation. Mainly hydrogenation is process in chemistry in which we add hydrogen during a chemical reaction. The main motive why we are doing hydrogenation with the fat process is because when we compare saturated and unsaturated fatty acids, it typically we see that saturated fats are solid in room temperature, whereas unsaturated are liquid. So for the ease of transportation and for industrial purposes, hydrogenation is the process by which the physical state is changed from liquid to solid state. So in this process, you can say the unsaturated fatty acids, while they are being transformed using hydrogenation process using nickel or palladium, so that process is not carried out incompletely. The partial hydrogenation results in formation of trans fat. So basically, the industry and commercial ones are relying on hydrogenation for changing the physical state, and typically they, for cost cutting, they do not tend to do this process holistically. Now, why are we decoding this particular topic for PCS Prelims 2025? Because a couple of months ago, there was a current affair in which the WHO has lauded few nations for completely phasing out trans fats. So, a factual statement could be formulated which are the countries which have completely phased out trans fats in their diet. So, the countries are Austria, Norway, Oman, and Singapore. You could see the European as well as Asian nations are in the picture. Already 40 plus nations have phased out as well. Important thing to note is that India is yet to phase out. We are in the transition stage. We have already limited its use, but still we are long way to go completely phasing out. So no harm in mugging a few countries because in PCS at times the current affairs which are of last 6 months are asked in prelims examination. So make sure you mug up these few countries as well. Now, coming to the sources part, because typically in such questions in prelims, they might ask which of the following food items might contain or are the good source of trans fats in our diet. So you should have a broad picture where all foods are associated with the trans fats. So basically, as you could see on your screen, the foods high in trans fats are all, you could say, Gen Z foods like French fries, cheeseburger, pies, chicken nugget, vanaspati ghee, donuts. And the broad classification goes that typically anything which is fried or processed, baked, are typically associated with trans fat. So you could say the everyday biscuits we eat, the different cakes we consume on festive or you could say birthdays, vanaspati ghee on food, and then pastries, refrigerated donuts, and also the margarine, shortening, cooking fats, which are commonly used in everyday purposes, also contain substantial amount of trans fat. So you could say almost on daily basis a large segment of population is consuming trans fats, because these all are attractive food option, and lot of food processing as well as MNCs are, you could say, making billions of dollars by selling these foods which are high on energy but comparatively carry their own risk. Now, coming to the harmful part of trans fat, because it has been a couple of decades when this food suddenly came into the market and became almost a daily consumption food for a lot of individuals. So, we have seen that anything consumed in excess is counterproductive. So, if you are consuming that particular food in limited quantities, that's good enough. But if you are overindulging in eating or over consuming these specific articles on daily basis, they might carry some specific risk, and this is where the question can be framed. So you have to first of all understand, you can see two technical terms, LDL and HDL. Now LDL stands for low density lipoprotein, while HDL is high density lipoprotein. Out of these two, LDL is considered bad cholesterol, which is harmful for health, while HDL is comparatively a safer, or you could say better food option, because not all cholesterols are bad for health. Some cholesterols are needed for formation of plasma membrane, as well as for some hormonal as well as some vitamin precursor. So basically you have to understand that in limited amount cholesterol play a vital role in our normal human physiology. But the problem here in trans fats is they tend to raise the bad cholesterol and simultaneously they tend to lower the good cholesterol. If it had been opposite, then probably these food would have been an acceptable norm in the society. So basically it's counterproductive to raise LDL and simultaneously low the HDL. So as you could see on your screen, they have mentioned that cholesterol build up in the arteries, and once the cholesterol builds up in your arteries are the blood vessels which carry blood to different parts of body, and which increases significant risk of cardiovascular diseases. So as you could see, the last part in the which they have showcased the heart part. So there is every possibility, because with these food you tend to gain lot of weight. There is a risk of obesity, and with obesity there are lot of studies which link directly to high cardiovascular diseases. So basically this is not a healthy food option. Apart from that, the liver, which is associated with the metabolism, secretes lot of enzymes involved in the urea cycle. It's also likely to be affected. The fatty liver is one of the specific disorders which is linked. Apart from that, if you are consuming too much fat, you will have some gastrointestinal problems as well, because it's difficult to digest large quantity of fat. And to revise the biology part, you should be clear that to break down fats, you need the lipase enzyme, as well as you need for emulsification of fat, the bile plays important role. Now, bile is secreted by the liver, whereas it is stored in gallbladder. So, typically, gallbladder stone patients also find it difficult to digest fats, and when such diet is being consumed, it is only going to aggravate the matters from health perspective. So basically, there is no harm in going through the role of cholesterol, different type of arteries, as well as the various risk associated. So so make sure you are clear with the LDL HDL part. Even if you are not clear, you at least you should remember that it is increasing significant risk of cardiovascular disorders as a general statement. Now, coming to the initiatives, what exactly are the global initiatives which are trying to demystify or limit its use? So, the most famous program which is attributed to, you could say, the targeting trans fat happens to be Replace Action Strategy. Now, Replace Action Strategy was launched by World Health Organization in 2018. Its original target was to eliminate trans fat use by 2023. But as we see with a lot of other targets as well, majority of countries fall short of their target. So currently they revised it. Now they are aiming to limit, or you could say reduce, the use of trans fats in majority of nations by end of 2025. So basically by December 2025, this topic is once again going to be in limelight. So make sure majority of nations, if they happen to eliminate the trans fats from their daily consumption, it would be a major health, you could say, victory. So you can see now they have changed this target to a little bit realistic terms. They are saying that we will reduce 90% global and 70% regional population coverage, which is relying on trans. Now, India is also trying to emulate the global model. So we were little late in starting. Since January 2022, we have made some stringent regulation by Food Security Standard Authority of India, which is now enforcing that less than 2% trans fat limit in all oils and fat should be there. So this is 2020 regulation, and WHO global practice has lauded India for reducing, because we started with 10%, then reduced it to 5%. Now currently the standard is 2%. Eventually the final step would be to completely phase out trans fats and replace it with the natural source or with the vegetable oils. And another fact which you need to remember with trans fat is they are produced naturally as well, in specifically with the food products associated with ruminants. Now, ruminants are nothing but cattle, sheep, goats. So any milk product like cheese, butter, that also contains trans fat. The problem arises when we are preparing trans fat artificially in industrial units and carrying out partial hydrogenation using nickel and palladium. So finally, with this topic, you need to additionally revise few additional topics, because basically it falls under the domain of nutrition, and in PCS syllabus you have seen that nutrition word is directly mentioned. So when we were covering this topic in our class lecture, we had a discussion what is the role of fats in our diet. They are primarily source of energy in storage form. They provide twice energy as compared to carbohydrates. So roughly we say for 1 gram of carbohydrate consumed, you get 17 joules of energy. For similar quantity of fat, it provides 37 joules. So basically, they are rich source of energy, even though they are not directly available or are the immediate source of energy. For that, we have to rely on glucose or the reducing sugars. And then our discussion dwelled upon the difference between saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. So basically, if they want to frame an NCERT based conventional question on this theme, then they are likely to just limit it to saturated and unsaturated fats. So make sure you have a quick revision. The saturated one were the one which contains single bond in their carbon chain. They were solid in state. They had higher melting point. They were associated with animal fats, and they pose significant risk to health once again due to their higher cholesterol content. Whereas in unsaturated fatty acids, they were comparatively safer to consume. They had one or more double bond in their carbon chain. They were liquid at ordinary room temperature. They had lower melting point. They are associated with plant foods like sunflower, safflower, or other vegetable oils. And they were comparatively healthier option because they tend to decrease blood cholesterol levels. So basically, this topic might dwell around the difference between saturated and unsaturated fatty acids as well. And the trans fat we have just decoded. So I hope this second theme which we have covered in our PCS Prelims Booster course has given you a quick revision of the fats topic as a general. Make sure you also simultaneously revise what are the essential fatty acids, what are their role in their diet. No need to mug up the exact name, but if there is some fatty acid which is in current affair like omega-3 fatty acid or something like that, there's no harm in jotting that down. Otherwise, from conventional point of view, a broad difference between saturated, unsaturated, and role of trans fat in diet, their sources, is important from Prelims perspective. So I hope this lecture was useful in some way. So if you are having any specific query regarding trans fat, you can ask them in comment section. We will try to address the genuine one as soon as possible. So we'll be back soon with another lecture on, you could say, PCS Booster course. Stay updated with us. Thank you very much.